Hi, Benyamin. How are you?
Hi, dear Borna. I'm great. How are you? What's up?
I'm doing fantastic. Good to see you again here. But before you're going to perform, I need to tell people something. So this is a fake. This is not a real skin. So I don't wear animal's skin at all. So this is just from China. Cheap thing. So I hope you're doing fine. So Benyamin, tell me, what are you going to sing? What you're going to perform?
Today, I'm going to play music from our group, Nikaba Band or National Special Orchestra of Iran. Its poet and composer is leader of group, Mrs. Maryam-Gilasian. I'm going to begin.
I know. I have to say thanks to Maryam-Gilasian, who organized everything, and this is special thanks to her. I will have her as a guest actually on the second season of Borna Kazerani's show. So before you're gonna perform, tell me what's the name of the song that you're gonna play.
The song name is Neshane.
Okay.
I don't know. What should I say to English?
Yeah, okay, Neshana, yes, it's like a point, like, all right, like the cue, like a point, like it depends on the concept, sorry. So whenever you're ready, please start.
Okay, let's go.
شاخه
جستجوی عشق بی نشانه تو مثل رد پا بمونم بهترین نشانه باشم میدونم که میتونم اگه تنها نمونم میخوام این تونستن رو واسه دنیا بخونم میدونم که میتونم اگه تنها نمونم میخوام این تونستن رو واسه دنیا بخونم
Yes, I think it. Yeah.
How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
I don't know!
Joe! Hello!
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing well. How's everything there?
Well, we're all locked down here in Melbourne. Such a crazy situation, actually. But I'm trying to be proactive here regarding Borna Kazerani's show, and I'm very happy with that I've been really busy with that. So do you want to say hi to those who are watching us now and later?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for taking the time to watch this.
Okay, cool. So I've got a lot of questions here for you, Joe, and I would like to talk to you from the beginning and take you to years ago. So just when you got acquainted with 3D and animation, what happened that all of these things became your world?
I'm sorry, what was the question? When I became acquainted with you?
Yeah. I want to take you back to years ago when you started to get to know about like animation and 3D, and then everything became part of your life and your world. So talk to me, what happened?
Well, I did a lot of like exploring, I guess, with art, and I always thought that I would be a 2D animator, and I had done some 2D animations early on, but when I went to college, I really made the switch over and learned 3D sculpting, and then from there I was like, well, this is just where I'm gonna take it in this direction, and just really put all my eggs in that one basket. Well, there's a lot to it. It's a pretty wide field, but I think that there's more capabilities as far as like 3D sculpting than what you can do with 2D animation.
When was the first time? But I mean, I'm just trying to dig in and see when was the first time you started seeing the animation, the things, and I said, "Oh my God, this is what I want to do in the future." And then you started. I want you to talk to me about it from the beginning. Yes.
Oh! When I was very young, probably playing video games, probably watching like cutscenes and like old PlayStation games, Final Fantasy. Watching. They have, the graphics in game are usually pretty poor, and then they'll have some pre-rendered cutscenes, and those were always like mind-blowing for back in the day. I mean, they're not very good now by comparison to what we can do these days, but back then I was just like blown away as a kid, and I think that definitely helped influence my decisions later on.
One of the things I've noticed in your work is that you use the bad characters sometimes, like bad characters in the movies, like Nicolas Cage and etc. So I feel like you try to convey something to the viewer by making these people like three-dimensional and something personal, maybe. So tell me about that.
Like what characters I choose to sculpt?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, to be honest, Oh,
Go on.
a lot of the times it's just what I think is going to be funny or amusing to me. I love watching corny Nicolas Cage movies, and that's one of the reasons why I feature him a lot on my Instagram. And he was a really good like subject to practice on. I think he's got a good face, and he ended up just sort of being like a theme in the work, something that I kept coming back to. But yeah, a lot of the subject matter that I choose are characters that I find interesting or could be a real challenge to sculpt, to practice with.
What are their challenges? Tell me about the challenges.
Well, every character has its own challenge. When you're doing like a likeness portrait, it is one of the hardest things, at least for me, to try to really capture like the essence of what that person looks like. And you end up staring at their face for a lot of hours, trying to understand all of the details and how they all fit together. And then if you're doing like a complicated like monster or something, there's a lot of like intricate details and how all those parts fit together. But it's not as much about trying to get it to look like something, but trying to get it to look like a cohesive whole and keep it interesting.
Yeah, because when I come across your profile for the first time on Instagram, I noticed, oh my God, there are like lots of 3D but Nicolas Cage, and said, oh my, that's very interesting. And that's why I thought probably you want to convey something through working with his face or something.
I don't know if there's anything I'm really trying to communicate through Nicolas Cage's face. I really like his movies. They're fun to watch. And I think that his portrait the likeness portrait came out pretty well. And so it's easier to go back to him and try out something new. And a lot of the times I'm trying like, for example, like cloth simulation. I'll run his face or a model through a cloth simulation, which will then turn his skin to like a cloth-like substance and animate it that way.
Yeah.
So it's just easier to go back to him over and over again instead of sculpting news every time.
Right. So I think it's very important to have a good idea or subject and concept to make it 3D in the duration of your work, which is very short because in the shortest time, you have to express the concept of your work. Am I right?
Yes. When you're rendering out an animation, usually each frame takes a long time to render. And so you have to really plan it out to get the most bang for your buck. Because if you're rendering out 150 frames and it's going to take, a day and a half,
wow.
Not per frame, but, it could take 15 minutes a frame sometimes. You really have to cut out all of the dead weight there. Unless you want it to be rendering for like weeks and weeks and weeks.
No, well, that's very interesting. So tell me about the subject you usually choose, like where do you get this subject? Because I think it's very important. It's like making a short film. When you're making a short film, you have to try your best to convey your message to reader or audience in a really short period. And is that the same for you, actually, of what you're doing?
Sometimes the message that I'm trying to relate, I would suppose, especially with like the hyper-realistic cartoon characters, I'd like to see, take those images from childhood and then translate them into what they might look like in real life, or some sort of like alternate universe where you pulled them through the screen and then they were standing in the room with you. Some of the work I would say has no message or is done for commission or something, but those projects are always interesting too. And, they've got messages. The message is for the client. They have meaning for the client.
Okay, so I'm going back to the Nicolas Cage again because I know you're very interested in his characters in different movies. Have you been in contact with him? Like sent you your stuff?
No, absolutely not. No,
Why not?
No contact with him.
Why
not? I'm sure he's a busy man.
No, I think you might be really interested to watch what you're doing because if I was, I would definitely be in touch with him and said, well, that's what I've been doing. And now I want to ask you a favor. So I want to you grab your camera and give us a tour or show us around. So if there are any project that you're working on and you want to show it to us, I think would be fantastic.
Sure. I brought up some 3D prints. Let me just turn my camera around. All right. So I just have my Instagram pulled up here. I don't know how well you can see. I'll pull the camera back. So this is just a lot of the latest stuff I've been working on. Mm-hmm. This was a recent commission Michael Myers had from Halloween. And these are some examples. I'm sure Borna's shared a bunch of them already, but you can come to my Instagram and see some of these silly animations. And I like the surreal and the psychedelic aspects of animation as well. Here's a 3D print that came out. This is actually like for a D&D or Dungeons and Dragons type miniature game. And I've been doing a lot more 3D printing lately, and 3D printing is really coming into the mainstream a lot more, which is cool. And I'm glad to see a lot more people like buying 3D printers and having them in their home and seeing that technology take off. And I've got over here, I brought up some from in the garage.
Oh my God, I love that. Yes. Yeah.
Some of these prints. I haven't actually been doing that for too long. I think I just got my first printer like a few months ago. But it's very addicting. Once you start, you want to just print out everything. And I've got all sorts of test prints. This is like one of the first ones that I ever did. Here's a bust of Nick Cage. I figured, he had to be one of the first ones. Okay. And let's see, I've got some classical sculpture too. So there's this great company that hands sculpture. This is the Venus de Milo.
Sorry, you're
and oh, did I cut out for a moment?
Yeah, for a moment. So that's fine. Now you got back. Yeah. Sorry.
This is the Venus de Milo. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you heard. There's this company. I think they're called Scan the World, and they go to museums and scan famous pieces of sculpture, and then you can actually just download these and 3D print them. This is Rodin's The Thinker, and here's a bust of the Medusa.
That's very interesting. How long does it take for each piece to be made? So how long?
It actually, as of right now, it's very slow. It prints. You can think of it like how a printer prints like a 2D sheet of paper, line by line, but vertically. So the way this, for example, would print, it prints upside down, and then this is stuck to the top of the build plate. And then layer by layer, it builds and it pulls up slowly. And it takes hours and hours at this point. It's getting faster and faster, but yeah, very slowly. There's a resin that is cured by light, and each layer, is represented by a different pattern, and it slowly pulls out of the tray. Let me see what else I have back here.
That's very interesting, actually.
And then here's some. Here's SpongeBob. goofy cartoon characters. Gotta have them in there. And then here's another monster, very popular, like Dungeons and Dragons monster here. And people would print this out, and they have a lot of fun, like painting them, and then using them.
That's what I was going to ask. That's what I was going to ask, like why they all have same colors. So. Oh.
Because they're all the same color because I don't have any paints.
All right.
Yeah, I've thought about it. That's like a big investment for me, and it's so much work sculpting them and then printing them. I feel like I should invest in some primer and some paints, but I haven't yet. Here's one that I did recently. Here's this is like a little demon bust.
Wow.
And one of the coolest things about the whole thing is the scalability. So you can just, once you have something sculpted, you can just scale it up and down and print it at whatever size. Now, if you do print it a lot smaller, it's going to lose some of the detail. But it's pretty crazy the level of detail the machines can put out.
And how long did it take for example, that one that you're just showing us? So how long did it take to design it and then get the result that what we're seeing right now? How many days or hours?
I think it took me a couple of days to sculpt it, and then the print. This big guy probably took 6 or 7 hours to print. And then there's some trial and error because there's a lot of print failures. Sometimes, for whatever reason, the printer will, or it's usually human error actually. When you're setting up a print, you'll make a mistake, and part of it won't come out. But yeah, so yeah, I know it. So you waited all day, or let it run throughout the night, and then you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, I have to do it all over again. But it teaches you to have a lot of patience.
Okay.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay, well, that's perfect. Very interesting.
Any other questions? You want me to cover? Or?
No. That's it. We can go back to my questions. And then thank you very much for showing us this. And actually, it was quite cool. Wait, this one is just keep pausing. You live in a country where there is lots of competition in your profession. So who usually your customers are? Who are your customers? Do you usually approach companies, or do you promote? How do you promote your work, and how do you usually get work through these things?
Well, it's not just this country, unfortunately, because with the internet, it's almost international now. I'm sure that I get a lot more from this hemisphere, but I've had work from all over the world. I've had work from Australia as well.
Really?
Yeah. Most of the time, I don't do as much promotion as I probably should. I hate self-promotion a lot of the time. But a lot of people find me through Instagram or my ArtStation or YouTube. And and that's how I get a lot of work. When I was first starting out, I would reach out to a lot of companies, and I got some work that way.
Okay, all right. So, So you're working with. Tell me more. I don't know much about your how you're dealing with the customers or company. Do they usually offer you? How do you collaborate with each other?
Well, it's usually online. With COVID and everything, it has to be online nowadays. But it was always usually online, and it's usually a back and forth process. Every artist will tell you, clients from hell stories, but usually it's been pretty good. And usually somebody will approach me. They have a project or something in mind that they want, either an animation or they want me to do a print for them. and then we'll just talk about the project in detail. I try to, get everything set in stone as much as possible, all of their ideas laid out before I actually begin working on it. And that usually creates a much smoother collaboration effort.
Okay, so I would like you to explain to me about the challenges you face in your work, like about the difficulties that you usually face with.
Well, I think a lot of artists deal with imposter syndrome, or like the whole my work isn't good enough type thing, and I definitely deal with a lot of that. I'm always striving to get better and better. And sometimes you finish a project and you think like, wow, I've really outdone myself this time. And then you look at it the next day and you're like, wow, this is crap. So there is definitely a lot of like hills and valleys as far as like morale goes. I think a lot of artists have to deal with that. So that's always a challenge. But I mean, as far as like there's technical challenges like learning new software, learning new techniques within the software, and learning anatomy, fine-tuning your level of anatomy knowledge is a big one, especially if you're a creature or character artist.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's interesting. And my last question for you, Joe, is about the difference between telling story in 3D and animation. Tell me about these differences, because in animation, I don't know. You tell me.
You mean like versus a still image versus something in motion?
Yes, yes.
Well, I think that there's you have a much greater challenge in front of you if you're trying to tell a story with just a single image, and usually there is motion within the image unless you're doing like a still life or something, and you have to sort of figure out a way to incorporate motion into that image without having anything moving. So in that regard, it can be a little bit challenging, but you only are working on one image. So the difference is when you're working with motion, you have the ability, or with multiple frames in an animation, you have the ability to show the exact motion you want and how fast or how slow something is going. But there's that additional challenge of rendering out all the frames, getting the motion correct. It's a lot more work to have something moving than a still image. More hours, I would say.
Yeah, it's all about being patient and creating something interesting.
Absolutely.
So, Joe, it was lovely talking to you. I got more information now about what you're doing. And so is there anything else that you want to mention and I didn't ask you, probably?
No, I mean, that pretty much covers what I'm working on lately, and where you can find me. I'm on Instagram and YouTube. Oh, I should mention, I also put out, if anyone is interested in learning any boring technical stuff, I put out tutorials on YouTube.
Perfect. What's the name of your... Mm-hmm.
It's my name. It's Joe Parente. But you can find everything linked on my Instagram. There's a link tree. And I think I have everything linked together pretty well. You should, if you find me somewhere, you should be able to find links to everything else. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
They're all linked.
Yeah. Crazy animations and 3D prints on my Instagram, YouTube tutorials on my YouTube channel.
All right, perfect. So thank you very much for being here on my show. We covered like back in, I don't know, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I don't know, when was it? So I'm glad. I hope to meet you and see you one day in the reality, in real life. I don't know when. So.
I'd love to visit Australia someday, so. Who knows?
It's crazy. It's crazy. We cannot travel anywhere. So we're just locked down here in Australia, and even we cannot go to another city or so. It's just in such a really, really different world that every one of us actually experiencing it, but it is what it is. So did you like our conversation, Joe?
Yeah, I thought it went really well.
Perfect. All right, I'm going to say goodbye. Sorry, go on.
I haven't done too many interviews, but, it seemed like it went well.
Why not? There you go. You take care. Be well. Have a fantastic evening. I'll catch you later.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.